He was just a bleeding stray dog on the side of the road, but helping him was the start of something that would change her life and nearly cost her everything. If this story grips you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thrilling tales. And tell me, from which country are you watching my video? I can see where my stories are being watched. It was a cold evening in November. The wind blew sharp and fast down the narrow streets of Elderwood, a quiet town surrounded by forest on all sides. Most people were in their warm homes away from the chill. But not Emily. She was walking home from her late shift at the bookstore, her backpack heavy with unsold books, and her mind even heavier with unpaid bills. As she turned the corner near the old abandoned factory, she heard it. A whimper. Soft, at first, then a little louder. It was coming from behind a dumpster. She hesitated. The area was dark, not the safest part of town. But the sound tugged at her. She moved closer and found a scruffy, dirt-covered dog, blood staining one of its paws. It looked up at her, eyes full of pain but also trust. She knelt beside him without thinking. "Hey, buddy, what happened to you?" She wrapped the dog gently in her scarf and carried him to the nearest vet. She had no idea how she would pay for it, but she didn't care. That dog needed help. 3 hours and $200 borrowed dollars later, the vet confirmed the dog had a broken paw, but would recover. Emily named him Rusty. She couldn't afford to keep him, but until someone else adopted him, he stayed in her tiny apartment, curled up beside her, like they had known each other forever. A week passed. Then one day, a letter arrived. It was hand-delivered, sealed with a strange wax emblem shaped like a lion's head. No stamp, no return address. Inside was a crisp, cream-colored invitation. Miss Emily Carter, you are formally invited to the reading of Mr. Lionel W. Ashford's last will and testament. Ashford Manor, 12 p.m., Friday. Attendance is mandatory. Identification required. Emily frowned. Lionel Ashford. That was the name of the reclusive millionaire who lived at the edge of town, in the huge stone mansion no one ever visited. People whispered stories about him. How he made his money. Why he never came outside. Why his family was never seen. He had died 2 days ago, according to the news. But why would he invite her? She'd never met the man. Friday came, and curiosity won over doubt. Ashford Manor stood like a castle at the end of a long gravel road. The gates were already open when she arrived. Rusty, still limping slightly, was beside her. She thought it was strange they allowed pets in. No one stopped her. Inside the massive dining room, a group of well-dressed people were already seated. Some whispered, some looked annoyed. Most glanced at Emily like she didn't belong. At the head of the table stood a tall man in a black suit, Mr. Giles, the lawyer. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "thank you for coming." Mr. Ashford made several last-minute changes to his will. As his lawyer, I am bound to honor his exact instructions. One by one, Giles read the names of the beneficiaries. To his cousin, a collection of rare coins. To a niece, his vintage cars. Each name brought a sigh of relief or a roll of the eyes. Then he paused. To Miss Emily Carter. Emily straightened, heart pounding. A stranger whose kindness reminded me of life's simple magic. I leave to her my summer estate in Havenbrook, a small sum of $100,000 and... He looked up from the paper. My dog, Winston. There was a collective gasp. Dog? What dog? Giles continued. Winston went missing a week before Mr. Ashford's passing. He always said that whoever the dog chose would inherit what mattered most to him. All eyes turned to Rusty, now sitting quietly by Emily's feet. Giles smiled, softly. That is Winston, the room erupted. You're joking, one man shouted. She's a stranger. That dog should be mine. This is fraud, another woman snapped. Emily was frozen. Rusty, Winston, looked up at her and wagged his tail. Giles raised a hand. Mr. Ashford left detailed video instructions to avoid any confusion. A screen lowered behind him. A recording began. Lionel Ashford, older than Emily had imagined, sat in a chair beside Rusty. "If you're watching this," he began, "I'm gone. And that means Winston found someone who still believes in kindness. He was hurt. I let him roam too far. If you helped him when he was broken, you deserve all I have to offer. My family had their chances. They chose greed. I chose love." The screen went black. Some guests stormed out. Others stayed, silent and bitter. Emily was still speechless. "Please follow me, Miss Carter," said Giles. He led her down a narrow hallway behind the study into a room filled with paintings, old books, and locked chests. "This house," he said, "is not just made of stone. It holds secrets, and someone doesn't want them found." She stared at him. "What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, handing her a small silver key, "the dog you saved may have saved you too. Be careful who you trust." That night Emily couldn't sleep. She searched the Summer estate online. It was real. The money was real. But something about it felt too easy, too strange. She visited the estate the next day. It was quiet, too quiet. Winston followed her everywhere. When she entered the study, he barked twice and ran to a bookshelf. He pawed at the base. Emily crouched and noticed tiny scratches on the wood. She pulled, and a small drawer slid out. Inside was a rolled-up piece of paper, a hand-drawn map with a red X under Ashford Manor. A treasure map? Before she could think more, the front door slammed open. It was the cousin, the one who'd yelled during the will reading. "You think this is over?" he hissed. "My grandfather built that house. He left it to Lionel, not you. You think I'm letting some dog-loving nobody take what's ours?" She backed away, gripping the map. He lunged. Winston growled, leaping at the man with surprising speed. Emily ran, map in hand, Winston right behind. She reached the barn and slammed the door shut. Inside, she examined the map under a lantern. It pointed to a part of Ashford Manor no one used, the old wine cellar. That night, with Winston, she returned to the mansion. The cellar was musty and dark, spiders, dust, broken crates. But in the far wall, behind a rack of fake bottles, she found it, a hidden door. Her hands shook as she turned the key Giles had given her. It opened to a narrow stone corridor winding downward. Winston stayed close. At the end was a room. A single light bulb flickered above. Inside were hundreds of journals, files, and photos, all marked Project Obsidian. Emily read page after page. They told of illegal experiments, secret patents, powerful technologies buried under Ashford land. Lionel had discovered something decades ago, hidden it, protected it, and trusted his dog to find someone worthy to carry on his mission. Suddenly, footsteps echoed behind her. It was the niece, the angry woman with the diamond earrings. "You found it," she whispered. "I knew it." She raised a gun. "You think he chose you? You think a dog makes you special. This was always meant to stay in the family." Emily's heart raced. She looked at Winston. He growled low. "Back away," the woman hissed. "I just want the files." Emily held them tighter. "You'll have to shoot me," Winston barked. And then, behind the woman, another voice spoke. "I wouldn't do that if I were you." It was Giles. He stepped forward. Phone raised. "You've been recorded." "Every word." The woman froze. He smiled. "Let's see how your inheritance holds up in prison." The police came. The cousins were arrested for conspiracy and attempted theft. They'd known about Project Obsidian. They wanted to sell its secrets to dangerous people. But Lionel had seen through them and trusted Winston to find a heart that still cared. Weeks passed. Emily took over the estate and the files. She turned some documents over to authorities, others to universities. The rest, she kept safe. People came to know her not just as the girl who helped a stray dog, but as the young woman who exposed a secret, stood up to power, and chose compassion over greed. And Winston? He stayed by her side, healthy, happy, and finally home. Because sometimes saving a dog doesn't just change its life, it saves yours too.